Baby Don't Shoot, a gay love story featuring a Luigi Mangione type. Written by Sally Strait, narrated by Gray Trainer. Find them on Instagram at GREYTRAYNOR. To support this podcast, give it 5 stars and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Listener discretion is advised. Chapter 16. After Mario plopped his springy body into Ted's car, enjoying the faint smell of the pina colada air freshener that, later, when smelling different versions, would forever remind him of the older man, bring about images of Ted's cute old ass in a Tommy Bahama button-up, the young man wrapped his arms around Ted and kissed him on the cheek, lingering for a full 5 seconds, pulling away with a mwah. It's nice to see you, Ted said to the floor mats. The older man hadn't been this low energy and awkward since Mario first met him at the beach, but Beach Ted hadn't also been skittish with heavy bags under his eyes. Mario clicked his seatbelt but kept his gaze on the older man. Something up? Are you all right? No, I didn't sleep well, Ted said, shifting into drive, and gave Mario a quick glance before breaking eye contact. A steely move. The older man continued. Listen, but the young man interrupted. You know, I have been really excited to see you, and with all due respect, Mario tilted his head, splaying his fingers, ready to make a deal, looking as Italian as his name. I'm gonna say it, I'd rather be fucking than talking. Ted swallowed hard. What about our date? Mario tossed a hand. We can go out after, you know? I mean, you can say whatever you need to, have to say, but for now, I want to act on what I got going on inside. These feelings, you know? He lunged toward Ted, who flinched but kept both hands on the wheel and held his face inches from the older man's. The yearning, you know? The burning, but not that kind. Mario moved his mouth closer to Ted's ear, whispering, I'm thinking, your cock, my ass. It wasn't a complete veer or yanking of the steering wheel, but the car did weave over the dotted white lines for a second. Thankfully, there were no other cars around on the 4-lane expressway, drivers normally ready to honk their horns, mouthing the words, Are you a total fucking idiot? Mario liked that his desire brought a little more life to Ted's face, certainly in the cheeks, now both as red as Cold War lipstick. But then the Ted who worries returned with darting eyes and shifty movements, the clouded version of himself that Mario always wanted to bonk away, like in a game of whack-a-mole. Okay, that sounds great, Ted said, turning to face the younger man, clearly trying to convey both interest and hesitancy. But I think Mario's strong right hand rose over Ted's thigh, instantly warming the older man's green athleisure pants, a thick material, but not so dense that when Mario's hand continued its upward trajectory, the growing muscle at Ted's center couldn't be felt. The car weaved again, but this time someone did honk, though neither of them noticed. What do you say? Party first, then we order a pizza? Mario asked. Ted cleared his throat, an attempt to regain his focus on the road. My place is a little, messy. I don't give a shit where you fuck me, Ted. I just want you to do the damn thing. Their conversation was like a cup of coffee to the older man, because, behind that steering wheel, his pupils steadied, widening, ready to absorb the night ahead. Sure, okay, sounds like a plan, Ted said, and the younger man gave him another squeeze for good luck. To say the sex was incredible would have been an understatement. Putting their sexual feats in a skateboarding context, Mario and Ted had landed 2 impressive tricks before landing the biggest one at the older man's place. There was, of course, the oral exchange at the gauntlet, which was like landing the classic ollie, nothing to shake a stick at, but was just essentially getting one's board in the air. Next, in Ted's office, upping the ante, came a grind of sorts, with Mario sliding across Ted's pole. But in Ted's bed, the 2 of them were ready to turn the heat all the way up, an attempt at the front side 360 by way of anal penetration. And after completing that 360 spin whilst flipping the board, together, they landed solidly, all 4 wheels on the ground, unable to catch their breath in disbelief they had ever met, and got close enough to make sheets so damp and Ted's main bedroom, those tan walls with black and white frame photos of trees, so humid. Though the more athletic of the two, not accounting for Ted's occasional stretching, breath still left Mario's body in quick, sharp bursts. Unable to get a fresh helping amid the sordid stink of the room, he was getting lightheaded, but the threat of hyperventilating added a thrilling edge to the lasting serenity of his orgasm, torrid and forceful, the semen bursting from him with the agility of a wartime projectile. Ted was no better, his belly rising and falling, undulating like a souffle, warmed 1 second, then cooled and corrupted another. A jagged sound came out of the older man, and that's when Mario cracked open his gently closed eyes, looking over at Ted, worried. "You all right?" Silly, wet-sounding gulps came from Ted's throat, which ordinarily would have made Mario laugh, his love of the older man's lumbering, goofy nature. But the younger man remembered he wasn't dealing with someone his age. A stroke or a heart attack wasn't unheard of at age 56, especially after achieving some of the most kinetic, intense sex that Mario had ever had. Ted cleared his throat, a rough bleeding, and began to speak. "I'm fine. I just got to choking on my spit there for a second." The older man propped himself up on an elbow, then dropped a hand, which smacked against Mario's abs, both so sweaty a spray of mist flew up from the impact. "That was," Ted began. "Pretty incredible," Mario answered, then turned toward Ted, whose resting hand slid up over the Adonis belt on the young man. "I'd say it was fucking celestial. I mean, holy fucking shit," Ted said, combing his drenched hair with equally wet fingers. Mario chuckled, gazing at this man and his beautiful body, enwrapped in satisfaction, drowning in a sense of comfort, as if this was all that had ever existed. There was no world outside Ted's sparsely decorated bedroom, and, from here on out, they would survive by eating the organic bedding material and drinking from the bathroom faucet when they weren't recreating the fusion of atomic particles, as they had just so successfully accomplished. Mario wanted to jump on the bed and scream, hear ye, matter can indeed be created. It just takes a certain spark and the right lube. It's in the glide, not the slide." "Can you?" Ted said before collapsing back onto a pillow. Mario flipped himself like a pancake onto his stomach, scooping up a pillow of his own, a place to rest his chin. One tired yet tight butt cheek of his peeked out from under the bedsheet. "Can I what?" the young man asked. "Believe what we did?" The older man's eyes searched the ceiling, apparently needing an answer. "I mean," Mario wrinkled his nose in thought, "yeah, I can believe it." Ted lurched up, wide-eyed, until an obvious snag with his back had him holding where it hurt, eyes narrowing. "How can I help?" Reaching out, Mario wanted to massage Ted's pain, recreate the massages he received for sports injuries, tell the older man about healing stretches, ones they could do together, especially before they fucked again, which he hoped would be soon. Maybe after dinner, even though that meant Mario having to prep his butt again, but he didn't mind. It was certainly worth it. Eyes averted, Ted's postcoital softness began to harden. "Thanks, I'm fine. This is just how my back is, but I do want to know, like, you're telling me what we just did was believable. Like, sex, like what just happened, is it always like this, with other people? Is this what sex is always like for you?" Mario bobbed his head, absorbing Ted's words, understanding the subtextual jealousy. It was clear that the older man was putting all their commingled magic on Mario's age, an attempt to once again deny what they had, what they brought out in one another, that rare magnetism. "No, Ted, it's never this great." The older man's skepticism softened. "But you just said that you can believe it. What just happened?" "Of course I can!" Mario sprang up on his knees, causing his dick to jiggle as he reached for Ted's face, squeezing it in his hands. "I really like you." Mario let go, allowing Ted to grasp the statement like a bird takes in water, one languid dip to sip at a time. "So no, it's not hard for me to believe that when you fucked the ever-living shit out of me, that it felt amazing. Amazing! I hope for you to fuck the shit out of me, and this I can certify amazing to get fucked the shit out of by you." Ted melted further, cracking a joke, finger gun in the air. "But there wasn't any shit. I got that prepping mistake out of my system Literally years ago, Mario said. Years? Ted asked. Too blissed out to care about the wetness from all corners of the bed and all areas of one another, Mario, hair poofier than normal, nuzzled up to Ted. Yeah, I lost my butt virginity when I was like 17, I think. Certainly tried before that with a couple of failed homemade dildos. Did you ever try using a banana? Ted wrapped an arm around Mario's shoulder, cupping the young man's bicep in his hand. I was too old to be using bananas when I accepted the fact that I might want something up there, Ted said. How old? Mario asked. Certainly older than you are now, Ted replied. Mario rose from the embrace to say, Retire the age thing, old man. It's getting old. Mario's tone was light, but not without a slight current of irritation. Ted chose to respond to the light part, doling out his own ease, a tactic to avoid their first fight. What are you talking about? Ted asked sarcastically. Mario continued, It's just like, I don't know, just accept that I like you as you. I mean, I get that we're different ages and we'll bump up against that, sure, but I don't know who gives a fuck, Mario said, lowering himself back into Ted's embrace. They shared a glance of understanding across the black and white ocean of Ted's chest hair, his pink nipple a lonely island. Okay, you're right. I'll stop, Ted said. The look lingered, deepening down to a vulnerable, sincere place where promises are made, ones that are meant to be kept. Ted looked away first. Well, Ted said, lifting himself, we need a shower. Desperately. Mario's smile stretched, still very much at ease. Oh yeah, just let me check my phone. The younger man watched Ted shuffle over toward the bathroom, noticing the labor in his gait. Mario wanted to laugh until he stood up and found he could not do so without leaning onto the bed for some much-needed support. His legs were jelly, uncooked fish sticks. Whoa, the young man said, catching himself, his arms straining to support his full weight, hand planted so deep in Ted's mattress, Mario thought it might leave a permanent impression, like in those cement squares outside that Hollywood movie theater. Are you all right? Ted asked, clutching the frame of the bathroom door, bare knees bent, ready to spring. Mario exhaled through his mouth, his wet heavy curls only tittering in the sudden breeze, when ordinarily, dry, they'd be flying about. Oh yeah, you just really got me good. The young man lowered himself back onto the bed. Just take a minute, a breather, and join me when you're ready, Ted said, sounding like a coach, which both warmed Mario's heart and turned him on. The older man then disappeared into the bathroom, and soon came the squeak and spray of the shower. The young man could still make out his handprint in the sheets, and for the first time, it sincerely occurred to him that things with Ted might last. Sure, they'd only been around each other 3 times, but the duration of those occurrences flew by, though not as fast as the periods of time when they weren't together in anticipation of reunion. Whether it would branch into a special 3 months, or a passionate 6, or even a comfortable year wasn't yet in focus. Was it ever? But there, on the bed, Mario felt an intense sensation, a sturdiness in his gut, the same kind of sensation when, right before his skateboard left the ground, he was sure he would land the intended trick on that specific attempt. And that feeling had never once been wrong, because so rarely did it so clearly arise. Mario walked gingerly to the bedroom door, feeling the clean hardwood floors against his soles, and tried to get the newcomer's sense of what Ted's house was like. The ceilings were high, and the decor light. Mario had to buy some art off his buddies and gift it to the older man, as so many of his friends took amazing shots of local surf and skateboarding scenes, and their photographs would look good hanging around Ted's place, especially above his near-empty work desk, which was pushed up against a bare wall. Its only personal touch was, at its base, a gold trash can choked by crumpled paper and takeout boxes. The urge to continue to drink in the newness of the space was too strong to deny, so Mario took the dwelling in through his fingers, toes, and eyes, recognizing that this may very well be the first visit of many. What will it be like to slowly take this place for granted, visit after visit, growing so comfortable here that I no longer see it as brand new, Mario thought. Lost in romance, Mario paced from the living room to the kitchen and back again, dancing a foxtrot to mark his place in Ted's home, dispelling energy here and there with his skin oils and loose hair follicles, his very minute bacteria coating the home. There was a slight tremor in the floor, probably the pipes busy bringing water to Ted's shower, only there was a rhythm to it. A 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, which, tickling his bare feet, grounded Mario. And then he remembered what he'd left the bedroom to do. The faint smile on Mario's face faltered, and, driven by a sudden compulsion, an unknown flash of worry striking his insides, he smacked his way toward the black leather couch where he remembered losing his pants. And there, kissing the floor through a pocket, was the bright light of his cell phone calling out. In no time, he had the phone to his ear, and a stranger spoke to him, asking Mario for his full legal name. The young man confirmed he was who he claimed to be, and the stranger matter-of-factly told him that his mother was at Emmanuel Springs Hospital. She had arrived via ambulance, and no, she was not doing well. Come now, the voice said. Mario either dropped the phone, or the world, and everything in it, suddenly got so heavy that his hand had no choice but to let go of the steel brick in his hand. The young man, too, hit the ground, falling to his knees, hunching, scrambling to get the phone back up to his ear. Hello? Hello? The call had ended, but what more information did he need? He had to go. Somehow his clothes found their way on his body, and when he slid on his last shoe, that's when he came back to reality, and in that present moment, he needed to vomit. There was the option of the couch, the floor, the table, and there was also a trash can. Mario jumped over the couch, scurried to the desk, turned the trash can over, dumping its entire contents, and shot his vomit into the receptacle, narrowly missing the base of a white floor lamp except for 2 drips of orange bile. Without a second thought, Mario put the trash can down on the floor, like this was a normal routine. Vomit, check, now off to the hospital. But then he was confronted with a pile of personalized paper, Ted's notes that spoke Mario's name, next to the word Mom. The written words asked, should I help Mario and his mom? Can I help Mario and his mom? Do I help Mario and his mom? Confused, squinting one eye then the other, trying to take in these pro-con lists with a very specific answer, Mario had no time for this. He had no time to feel betrayal. He had no time to be confused. So he grabbed a handful of the papers that he didn't quite understand, then fled. He ran 5 miles before he stopped to call a cab. The running had made no sense, but he felt like he had to physically prove that he tried to be there, that he would do anything to be there. And once he got there, never again would he leave his mother's side. Chapter 17. When Ted heard the door slam, he had already stepped out of the shower, calling Mario's name, though his desire was not to leave the steady stream of water, perfectly pressurized thanks to a showerhead installed by someone he hired on an app, a young Asian fellow whose name, as Ted read it off his phone, was difficult for the older man to pronounce, until this handy person appeared at his door with his own toolbox, heavy-looking and brick red, saying, "Just call me Brian," in perfect English, after Ted tripped over Brian's actual name, as smooth as when Bambi first took to the ice. Mario and I should be enjoying Brian's hard work, Ted thought, toweling off, again calling the young man's name. A shoddy drying job, Ted left wet footprints from the bathroom, through the bedroom, and across the kitchen, a sodden path across pristine hardwood, and, seeing the upturned pile of trash, a gnarled white ball of Mario's name, and the word Mom, and smelling the sweet, sharp scent of sick in the air, Ted understood that the worst thing that could have ever happened. The big one had hit, the beautiful mansion was up in flames, the tender rose was plucked bare. Ted was certain that wherever Mario had taken off to, he was there, or in the process of being there, feeling an indescribable pain, mixed with betrayal and loneliness, and whatever other shitty thing decided to show up and rain down on his heart and hope. The wet towel fell to Ted's ankles, exposed and devastatingly responsible for another person's misery, a sensation like having a brick duct taped to each extremity. Ted sank to the ground and wished he could apologize to Mario, try and soothe all the bad that he had surely ignited in the young man. He looked to his thighs, the skin loose where it had once been taut, the hair finer and lighter than the leg hair of his younger years. It wasn't blonde anymore. It was silver, shiny and brittle. In that moment, Ted was both indescribably young, the empty-headed fool, as well as the oldest man who had ever lived. Chapter 18. That night, with Mario by her side, Gia Gangiona succumbed to her dealt hand. The only sign of life since Mario's hospital arrival had been the subtle flaring of her nostrils next to beeping machines. And when that beeping dulled to a drone, a fall from a steady rhythm, the night nurse rushed in and told Mario why it was he could no longer make out the feel of his mother's hand. This familiar shape, suddenly a new, distant, and cold thing. Where was the maternal grip that had pulled him away from busy intersections, pushed him back against the passenger seat at sudden stops, guided him through fields of Easter eggs? Where was Gia's signature squeezing of Mario's hand? A simple signal, just to say, "Hi, honey, I'm right here." Where was her life, and just where had it gone? "Your mother has passed," the nurse said, after dragging the end of a stethoscope across Gia's bare neck, where her St. Christopher medal had always rested, an heirloom from Mario's Calabrian grandmother. Upon his frantic arrival, before Mario could question its whereabouts, one of the day nurses pushed it into his hand. Had it fallen off? Had the clasp broken? Did they have to take it off of her for some grim reason? Mario didn't know. The day nurse said only, "Be with her." And Mario had done so to the best of his ability, taking in every inch of her face, her entire outline, her existence and essence, how she was in a state of living. "I know," Mario said at the announcement of his mother's death, nodding slowly as if bowing in quick cycles of prayer. "You take as long as you need. Come get us when you're ready to begin the next steps," the nurse said. Mario leaned back, dipping out of the light emanating from the one blue-white bulb above his mother's bed, letting his spine stack up against the hard, uncomfortable plastic chair, a position made more unpleasant by the fact that he'd just been leaning over, extending his back and shoulders, for 4 hours. In the dark, his brown eyes black, Mario wondered if, in those 4 hours, he had been enough of a son. Had Gia felt safe and protected on her departure? Had she heard Mario's words, his singing? Electric Light Orchestra, Gia's favorite band, with their hard-to-reach falsettos. Had she heard his praying of hopeful words, asking that she bounce back, a pain-free, a cancer-free return, one where she could resume her daily jog around the neighborhood, 5 miles, made impossible by the introduction of the cancer meds and their all-consuming drowsiness? Picturing his mom jogging, her precise movements in maroon athleisure, with the addition of the night nurse's words, "Come get us when you're ready to begin the next steps." Mario balled his right hand into a rigid fist. In small, hammering jabs, Mario struck his fist against his bare knee, looking to the white ceiling peppered with gray flecks, searching for an answer as to why his mother had received a gentle, open-ended set of steps in death, but only a flat, sorry no, when it had come to curing her. Angels are no burden, he thought, at least not to the insurance companies, the same ones who claim to be in the healing business, promising to do everything to keep their patients tethered to this good old earth. Mario's pounding fist started to hurt, a blush of bruise forming under his jeans, and then he stood to do something. But what? His shoe squeaked against the slick tile floor, scuffing the surface, charged by the desire to do. But he peered down at his beautiful mother, then turned to the door. There was nothing to be done. Mario sat once more, and when he did, he could feel that undulating roll of fury return, usurping his sadness, filling his deep well of emptiness. And this anger thrashed against his ribcage, a strident flame born, steadily rollicking in a whipping wind. He understood that he would never be the same. Whether this was the result of life's harsh boot, tread marks where his heart had been, or a subconscious choice, Mario didn't know. But the how was no longer the issue. The question at hand was a big, oily what. What must be done, and what side of suffering's dice would serve as justice for what happened to Gia. Righting his posture, straining the sore back muscles, Mario stood, tall, like the structural way a new wall is put into position, tight strings yanked, placing this strong shield just so to block out what's inside from the rest of the world. Only Mario had nothing left to defend or hide. The action of now was to demolish, to become a sort of wall falling on those stupid enough to think it would never come down, that it would never break. Broken but with the shards fused, a stronger, steely kind of fusion, Mario leaned down to cup his mother's face in his hands. The coldness of Gia's skin had his body telling him to let go, that it wasn't her anymore. But Mario stayed with her, smoothing her hair down, away from her face, like she did with a young Mario at bath time. Patting down his wet curls, sitting beside the tub, she'd say, "Let me see those beautiful eyes." On her deathbed, her eyes were closed, never again to be opened, even though Mario would never forget their mahogany luster, the gleam they stole from her, the one they let fade away. The young man was thankful that he had his mother's eyes and would be reminded of her every time he looked in the mirror. And beholding them, others would know about her as long as Mario was alive. It was his mother's gaze he would think of while he slipped into tight black jeans and a form-fitting black t-shirt before he shouldered on his black backpack, a home for his 3D printed project, a weapon made of melted plastic, thanks to Blake, who had the technology and was assured that it would only be used for target practice. Only Mario didn't really have much practice with guns, but he certainly had a target in mind. After a kiss on his mother's smooth forehead, Gia's day and night routine for skin maintenance never once skipped. Despite 2 decades of single working motherhood, Mario drifted over to her ear. "Ecco il mio cuore," Mario said. "Here is my heart." He would never admit it, the anger wouldn't allow it, but his heart that day had already died, torn asunder, before it evaporated with his mom's passing. 'Cause Mario had lost the lover, the first one he had ever had, a betrayal by someone with whom he could have gone the distance. It didn't matter what the older man's defense might be. The crumpled paper with Ted's handwriting in Mario's pocket screamed so loudly, a traitorous shout in longhand, that Mario could never forgive. And all of that made it easy to step away from Gia's body. She wasn't there anymore. And now suddenly, there were things to do, things to be done. Mario's anger shouted the importance of righting Ted's wrong, gathering up that broken trust and accrued deceit, the older man's hit of inaction on his mother's life, and he would take how she was taken, becoming the decider of someone else's days. The young man left his cold mother to get the nurse, ready to sign papers as Gia had already decided her final wishes, the total cost of which was going on credit cards. No matter the form of payment or the resulting debt, she would get a proper burial and headstone. Mario just wasn't sure if he'd ever get the chance to see it. That was Baby Don't Shoot, a gay love story featuring a Luigi Mangione type. Did you enjoy yourself? Good. Then join us next Wednesday for the next installment. Consider supporting the author at buymeacoffee.com/Sally Straight, SALLYSTRAIT. Baby Don't Shoot is a work of fiction. Names, characters, businesses, places, events, and incidents are either the products of the author's imagination or used in a fictitious manner. Any resemblance to actual persons living or dead or actual events is purely coincidental. No generative artificial intelligence was used in the writing of this work. Copyright 2026.